Hello, my peeps, and welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. This is episode 95 of season 2. Well, it's episode 95. It's episode 43 of season 2. I am your host, Ike, and before I spout any more sounds or make any more false claims, I'd like to just take a moment and say thank you for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guest your ears. Now, if you still have the bandwidth after you've enjoyed this episode, please share this with somebody who you think would like it. Or just subscribe yourself if you already haven't. That'd mean a lot. So, as of the other day, and for the first time you're hearing it, I think, I am now officially a sponsored professional of the amateur variety Magic player by the local and awesome game store Collector Legion. Thank you guys so very much. That means a lot to me and helps my empty ass pocketbook so much. So this is coming out on the 1st of May. You know, it's gonna be May. And I'm going to my first Pro Tour here in like 3 or 4 days, depending how you want to look at it. I am flying out Thursday. What's today's Monday, so I'd be flying out the 4th. The tournament starts the 5th. This is gonna be my first PT in over 4 years, maybe even over 5 years, depending upon like real life PT. There was an online pro tour in like 2020, I think, during COVID. That went okay, but this is the first one that I will be attending in person since I think like 2018, maybe even earlier. I think it's 2018 though. I don't know. Been a hot minute. Testing has been really rad. Earlier or previous guest Lafayette was absolutely right. Testing is, and he didn't say this on here, but he said it to me. Testing is awesome. Testing is the best. And he's not wrong. Testing has been a lot of fun. That being said, I cannot wait until this event is over. I'm wanting to kind of focus back on podcasting. I'm going to end up focusing back on Magic, but in a less like intense fashion, I hope. This has been a lot and it's been quick and it's been exhausting. So I can't wait to just play local events and hang out with my homies and have the stakes kind of lessen, you know, have it be less like do or die and more just like, eh. So, you know, I don't know that I'm prepared, but I am ready to play this event. At least as ready as I'm ever going to be. And I'm very excited for it to come to a head. And, you know, I don't know if I said this last time, but I definitely have been saying this to a lot of people talking that have been interested in, you know, how I'm feeling, how I'm doing. And I have said this very much feels like a roller coaster that's been ticking up quickly and for way too long. And I just can't wait to hit the first descent and really get this, you know, party started and get it over with. I've enjoyed prepping for it, but you know, with it coming to a head, I can't wait till it's over. I hope it goes great. I hope I need to figure out and find my passport and see if I can if I need to update it or if I'm ready to go to Barcelona and book a plane ticket. But either way, you know, I hope I don't think I'll have any regrets on testing, although there's no way that I won't. But I hope I don't have too many. But either way, I feel like I put enough time, and I hope the result is, you know, replicates that. I hope that the result is evident of that. Other than that, what else happened this week? Somebody is wild. So at my workplace, there is a fridge that is meant predominantly for the workers there, but also the kids can have access to it, I think. I don't know. At this charter school, the small, like, independent study charter school thingy I work at. And I left a bottle of lemon juice there, as I have done for months. I brought a new one in. I use it every day. And then I checked the other day, and it had been taken, gone, removed, however you want to say it, much to my dismay. And so now, like, first off, what the fuck? Who steals someone's lemon juice? Who throws away a lemon juice container that's 2/3 full and has just been newly put in there and is very much of date? Like, what the fuck? Who does that? If you can think of a reason, please hit me up and message me at twitter.com/Ikes, or email me if you think there is a less, a reasonable reason, but that you don't want to be seen in the light of day, at passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. Like, I can't figure it out. I am flummoxed. I am annoyed. And part of it is the fact that, I'm under all this pressure to do well at this tournament. And most of that is self-induced, of course. But very much annoyed. So now I am doing that from home. I am, squeezing lemons into my glass and taking it in a bit of a Stiltskian fashion. But say I love you. Yeah. That's is my absurdity this week. But this week we have a great man and somebody I consider a friend coming to the podcast. His name is Rex. He is a fantastic and sweet gentleman. So without further ado, I guess, because I don't really know what to say and I don't want to spoil anything, please enjoy this thoroughly tremendous interview with the fantastic, the riotous Rex. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my guest tonight has lost 130 pounds, is an exercise scientist, always picked last in PE, a fire performer, and overall life enthusiast. It's Rex!
It is I. Thank you.
I gotta admit, you have the hardest name to draw out the most amount of syllables with.
Fair. It's short and to the point.
Yeah, exactly. And just like our first question, what's your favorite movie line to quote?
Favorite movie line? From Men in Black, Tommy Lee Jones says, "A person is smart. People are dumb, stupid, panicky animals."
I literally quoted that today. So I work as a tutor, and I was quoting that to a student when talking about how, like, you can have conversations with an individual about like a tough subject, but when it comes into like the sphere of especially the internet and public discourse, having a kind of conversation about, any kind of touchy subject, whether it's be, a hot take on people's rights, lack thereof, how they should be treated, or anything like that. I'm not going to step into the foolhardy decision of saying what I said. Yeah. But if you have those in a public venue, it can lead to either misunderstanding, not being able to explain yourself, and it usually ends up being like kind of getting emotionally charged and getting hit very hard from either end of the political spectrum.
Yeah, the mob mentality is definitely dangerous for sure.
Fact. What was your first concert and what was your best concert?
My first concert was Linkin Park, and it was a little bit late in life, and I was probably like 20 or something like that. And I was like, wow, where has this been my whole life? So very grateful to have seen Linkin Park, because I love them, and rest in peace, Chester, for sure.
Rest in peace.
And the best one, man, there was an epic Warped Tour where Enter Shikari, another crazy band, a little less well known, but they're like hardcore rock / punk / EDM, and they're like for positive change and stuff.
Sweet.
And I mean, they were crowd surfing over me. I was able to use my GoPro selfie stick thing to play their guitar from the stage. After they set it down, I reached over and strung the guitar.
That's awesome.
I'm really, really big with really tall.
Can confirm.
So yeah, I was I've had a lot of crazy concert experiences.
What was the name of this band?
Enter Shikari is the name. I've seen them several times. Really good if you like hardcore music, and they kind of blend EDM and stuff. They also get really involved with the crowd and play in intimate venues. This was at Warped Tour, but they play in intimate venues. And one time me and a friend followed them for 2 shows in a row, and my friend asked if he recognized me, and at the time I had like a 6-inch red mohawk and everything. And he just looked at me like deadpan and was like, "You're a very distinguishable character." And I was like,
Can't
good,
confirm.
good. Yeah. So,
You're how tall? Is your
I'm like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, you stand quite a level above me, and I'm 6 feet tall, so it's definitely
Right.
yeah.
Definitely blessed. Very, very grateful for the gift of height. And like I said, I used to pour it on with the flat ironed red mohawk,
Oh, love
trying
it.
to get noticed at concerts.
The height wasn't doing it. Time to add a couple
exactly.
inches.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, on the kind of same front, who's someone you've never met, alive or dead, that you'd like to have lunch with?
Never met, alive or dead. Huh. It would probably be Chester Bennington. Probably actually, that's up there. Because I'm curious. His suicide taught me a big lesson, like fame, money, all that. Like to be able to sell out stadiums and everything, and still think that life isn't worth it. I just
Yeah.
I was just very interested in that, and also like I don't know. I have my theories and suspicions, but like. I don't know. I'm just interested in, and also I heard he had like a lot of self-doubt and everything. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting hearing people that have like climbed the ladder to stardom and still have imposter syndrome. You're like,
Right.
you've got Grammys, you've got millions of dollars. You've done, it's not even like, I understand like when you've done one album, you're like, can I do it again? But they did like what, 6 or 7? It's like,
Yeah.
how is that? I mean, it makes me think that it's just an intrinsic thing that never goes away, which is nice to know. Because I don't know about you, but I constantly feel like, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing this right.
Definitely.
All that.
Definitely
So to know that it's, even if I earned $1 billion, it's still going to be here. It's like, at least, at least I didn't miss out on it by being poor.
yeah, exactly. And then also too, like I said, like the money and everything else, and like the adoration and everything, like just wasn't cutting it.
Yeah.
So it was like, interesting. But yeah, I don't know. That
Perhaps
might be
look inward, not outward, myself.
Exactly. Yeah. That might be a little bit of a sad lunch, but that's who came to.
Where would you want this sad lunch to take place?
I
Do you
don't
have
know.
a favorite
On a
place here
boat?
in Los Angeles that you like to?
I actually really like the Bonaventure Hotel. What's it called? The Bonaventure Grill or something? It's got like a rotating rooftop.
Ooh.
Yeah, and like it's a hotel that they filmed like True Lies and like a couple other random action movies.
Oh, that's so
Back
cool.
in the
This is
day.
like the K Grill Korean cuisine. Is that the no?
I don't think so. It's Bonavista Lounge. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
Bonavista Lounge at the Bonaventure Hotel, and like the elevators on the outside of the building.
Sick.
Went there first when I was a
Yeah.
kid. Yeah, so it
I know
like
I know what
amazed
you're
me as
talking
a
about. Now,
kid.
yeah, that's so dope.
Yeah.
Well, while we're on the topic of food, to kind of regress to our own devices, what's your favorite meal to make just for yourself, assuming cost and time are not relevant factors?
I can say my favorite meal that I'd like to have for me. I don't know if it would be my favorite meal if I were the one preparing it.
All right, I'll allow it.
But I love me some sweet potatoes. That's probably like my favorite food. It's gonna sound really boring to everyone else. It's like
No, that's awesome.
the value of food to me is not only like with the taste, but like just knowing that it's like good quality nourishment, like really kind of skyrockets its value, and it can be like one and the same thing. So I don't know. I love some like turkey, like Thanksgiving style, like sliced,
Yeah.
awesome turkey.
Are
with, like,
you
some good
a
vegetables.
dark or light meat kind of guy?
I like them both. Light meat's probably like a little more common in my diet anyway, but I've definitely opened up to like more dark meat and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I'd say surprise me to the chef.
Well, if you were given a meal, which condiment do you think you'd be?
I mean, I'd have to be like some red wine vinegar for the dressing.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Love it. That's
tangy,
so good.
but like also like calorie free. And
So to kind of pull back the veil a little bit and show a little bit more foreshadowing, we're going to be talking a lot about health. We're going to be talking about a lot about self-improvement and a lot about exercise on this podcast.
yes,
As Rex here is, like I said earlier, an exercise scientist, and do you want to blow up what gym you work at, or do you not work at one gym in particular?
It's actually in a little bit of a weird state now. I used to train at Hollywood Gym, which was nice. In Hollywood, obviously, kind of iconic gym, and like the non-commercial ones are great. But then when the pandemic happened, everything got really weird. Everywhere, all
Across
over.
the board.
Yeah, for sure. So I ended up training outside, and then never quite went back. Like the time came, the time came to be able to go back, and I was like, okay, well, between paying rent to the gym, trying hard to migrate my little flock back to that gym, which, most of the people that train with me don't generally like gyms anyway. I don't really specialize in training like athletes and everything. Like it's fun, but my real passion is just training, the average person that doesn't quite realize how far they can go. So yeah, like, outdoors and the fresh air, sometimes fresh air in Los Angeles. And like,
yeah, I was going to say.
So yeah, I've kind of been training like outside lately. I do some in-home things, but traveling is usually not the most time efficient thing. But like the park I train at is, 2 blocks from my house. So there's nothing quite like,
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing quite like leaving at 4:55 for a 5 PM appointment.
In LA, that is a rare gift to be sure.
For real. Yeah. So I might end up eventually like with my own studio. That would probably be the case.
Oh, sweet.
But where I could set the vibes and have control of everything. But for now, we're outside until I get sick of it.
That's great. So. Well, I don't probably need to put the disclosure in here, but I'll leave it in anyway. What is your favorite non-exercise thing that you have to force yourself to do?
Favorite non-exercise thing that I have to force myself to do?
Yeah. So for a lot of us, it doesn't sound like you, or at least not anymore. We have to force ourselves to do exercise. It's like, I don't. All right, and then you go for a jog, and afterwards you're like, oh, thank God I did it. Okay. But for you, I'm assuming at least at this juncture, exercise is no longer a force yourself to do, but rather a moment of pleasure. And
yeah, it's like my time, and I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a rough one, but it's certainly very, very automatic. But yeah, I guess currently a couple other things. I do believe in struggle for the sake of struggle. And not just things that kind of like hurt you and set you back, but like things that, challenges that you can step up to that do make you better as a person. Currently, we have cold showers and holding my breath as long as I can.
How long are you up to?
My record is only like 3 minutes and 15 seconds, but
That's fucking long.
I kind of have no desire to beat it, to be honest. Very, very, very difficult. Yeah. An idol of mine, David Goggins, crazy guy. I'm not quite that crazy. I'm like, I'm close, but like, I don't know. Nothing that I do, I ever want to have like lasting negative impacts on my body. I always want it to be positive. And there are some inbound safety valves in holding your breath as long as you can. Like you basically can't hurt yourself, unless you're like underwater without control of being able to exit. But it's like this struggle between you and yourself. You just want to breathe more than anything else, and sometimes you can just delay it for another 2 seconds at a time. Mm-hmm. So I try to do it daily with school and everything. It's kind of like fallen off from the
Turns
daily.
out it's not a good idea to do in traffic.
No. I very specifically have to be.
You just purple.
I very specifically have to be like at home. Lying down on the floor is usually the best
you do it
spot.
lying down. Interesting.
Yeah, well, it's safer that way too. You know what I mean? Because like, if
you can't fall.
Yeah, sometimes my willpower is like it's almost always a good thing, but sometimes it's like, oh wow, I need to put in some like particular safety valves to not like.
That's what's smart. I never thought about that.
So, yeah, I do it. I also allow myself to distract myself. So backing up, I used to do a cold shower while holding my breath in the cold shower. And it was the only habit I've ever undertaken in my life that was not easier after 6 months, and in fact was harder. I was dreading it. Like everything else I've ever done has gotten so much easier with time.
Yeah.
Like it just becomes like automatic. But it was just so much suffering
so
compacted
torturous.
into Yeah. And I was also like counting instead of using a stopwatch. So it's like you're focusing on the time, So now I have separated the cold shower and the suffocating, and I don't mind the cold shower. The cold showers every day. It's fine. It's kind of like refreshing if anything. And then the holding my breath is still a little tough myself to make myself do it, but I allow myself to distract myself in any way, shape, or form, like read something or anything like that.
I finished a chapter and held my breath the whole time.
Yeah, usually more like, half a page, but we get there.
Turns out it gets harder to read when you're running out of breath.
For sure, yeah. I have like a kind of a mild interest in being able to free dive someday, somehow.
Oh, nice.
I would like to, I want to get like scuba certified and all that because I love the ocean, but it also seems like so, I don't know. I almost don't want to go deep enough to where all that equipment is what's keeping me alive. I would like to be self-contained.
Yeah.
In my ability to take a deep breath and go check out a turtle and then come back up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even if I don't, basically it makes your cells make better use of oxygen when you might all of a sudden be deprived of it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, kind of.
How long did you start out? Like when you first remember doing it, what was your initial
1
score?
minute was very tough. 1 minute was very tough. Yeah. And it seems to come and go. Like this is anecdotal, not necessarily scientific, but like, wow, depending on the day and the time, like you can just be like, wow, that wasn't hard at all. And I got 2 minutes. Or you can be like, holy crap, I cannot get 40 seconds right now. So it's really interesting how it comes and goes. I'm not sure what's all involved into it. I know something about having a full stomach matters. How many breaths you do before matter. Like we're a huge collection of variables. So
True. Well, hopefully one day you'll be able to match up with Kate Winslet.
Yeah, right.
Did you hear about that?
No, I don't think I did.
So she's in the new, I just saw like this behind the scenes thing is really random, but she's in the new Avatar that just came out, the Avatar 2, the Avataring or whatever they're calling it these days. I don't know. But she wanted to like do like pull a Tom Cruise kind of thing and like do it for real, or maybe James Cameron did, but she ended up holding her breath I think for over 6 minutes.
Epic. See, if I had money, I would have like a trainer for everything. Like, I want to learn how to hold my breath. Teach me the ways. Like I know I'm not doing it the most efficient way. I'm just plowing forward. I'm sure there are techniques to it and all kinds of things. Like that would be such a good. That would be so cool. I bet she got there in like some crazy amount of time too, like 4 or 6 months or something.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I've been doing it a year, and I like, and I'm only on like 2-3 minutes on a good day.
Well, in those moments where you come up short, what's your favorite non-traditional curse word to use to let out your exasperation?
It's like pretty lame, but I'm always just like, God fucking damn it. God fucking damn it. I think I tried to level up one because like I was raised like hyper religious, right? Like hyper religious, and like the words "goddamn" were like extra evil somehow. So like we would have to like walk out of a movie or stop whatever we were doing and leave the place if those words were uttered. So I think I just somehow along the way tried to make them even worse. And I don't know when it arrived, but like my partner says it too, and it's like it must have been me that did it. It's very weird. But yeah, I probably said it today. So
is there an inanimate object that you'd like to be best friends with where it's sentient?
Trees, man. All the trees, they would be so
you
wise.
You sound like such a hippie there.
I know.
Sorry.
I had to lean
trees,
in.
Man.
The trees, man. I had to lean into it. Yeah, dude, they'd be so wise.
They would be.
They would be like the Ents in the Lord of the Rings. They would just, just so like the sequoias up north. Yeah. Like, oh my god.
Well, do you know what this is a fun little tale that I got given by a dear friend of mine, David Martinez, when I lived up in Humboldt County in the around those sequoias, the Avenue of the Giants and all that. Do you know what the oldest tree in the world is, or at least in the United States anyway?
No, I don't think so.
It's the bristlecone pine. It's actually not that big. It's relatively short. And this some arboreal fellow was out, and back then they did not know how to do the whole like where they make those like bore incisions to like pull out like a little stick to count the rings.
Right.
So the only way they knew back in the day how to figure out which one actually was the oldest or to see its age was to cut it down.
No.
And so this guy goes and he looks at all of them and he goes, sorry, but we for science, and he finds the smallest one. Cuts it down, they count the rings. Years later, this technology comes out of how to count the things. And the bristlecone pines are in this very small area, and it was a very small bunch of them. So it was a very small population. They went and they checked all the rings. It turns out the one he cut down wasn't the youngest, it was the oldest.
Oh my God. How fitting
So this
for
poor
scientific
arborist
exploration.
is just like screaming into the universe. He's having accidentally cut down the oldest tree in the world.
For science. For science.
For science. It's so great though. It's like,
Oh
oh,
my
man.
God.
Poor
Savage.
bastard. Yeah.
And that tree could have been my friend. We could have been having all the conversations.
You bastard. Do you like to, as a man of exercise, are you a big fan of climbing trees, or do you just prefer to like sit underneath them and enjoy their shade?
So when I was younger, all the extreme things, not that tree climbing is that extreme, but post 30, I'm like, if there is a risk of me getting injured, it has to be a really sweet payoff. So I love a good hike. I'll take a full day hike easily. I'll clamber over some rocks. But as far as like the climbing, I do like it, but I would be in a harness and,
for sure.
all those things. After I tore my meniscus, which is like my first major injury like 2 years ago. And it like opened my eyes. I was like, wow, you can make one move and just like not walk the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, no.
What's the biggest risk you've taken most recently that was like worth the juice was worth the squeeze?
Most recently, driving in Los Angeles, probably. But let's see. I don't know. The most risky thing, not too much risk lately. I don't think. I'm sure there's something.
Well, in the interim,
yeah. And then,
do you have a life hack you'd like to share with the class to improve their daily living?
Deep breathing. It is like, wow. There's so many different aspects to it. Like, first of all, I'm sure you've probably heard, it's like a connection to the present. It's like our literal anchor here. Like if we don't breathe for longer than however we're capable of, we, transition out of this plane. So like it just taking a deep breath and kind of like centering yourself is like a very, very, very important thing to do. And I love to find the things that have like a spiritual, mental, and physical benefit all at once. And that has all three. Like there's a lot of physiological reasons to take a deep breath, clearly. And it's proven to calm yourself. But you can also like, the more you feed into the habit, the more you can make it a calming thing and you can kind of add power to it. So just, deep breathing in general, like, there's all kinds of breath work out there. And, I guess one other thing though, too, I wake up every morning and I say that I'm so happy to be awake and alive. And man, you talk about something that's been transformative. Cause I first started saying it when I was not at all happy to be awake or alive. And some days I would even wake it up and say it like sarcastically. Like kind of like through like gritted teeth, like, oh great, another. Awesome. And I wrote it all the way to like legitimate gratitude. And like I said,
that's so cool.
Yeah. And I probably say a lot of things that, hearing them first, it sounds like cliche and everything like that, but there's a lot of power in some cliches. And like, it's done a lot for me to just cultivate gratitude and wake up every morning regardless and be like, remember, like I get to versus I have to.
Yes. I
like,
literally just read, I'm reading this book for work that I'm incidentally enjoying. I think it's called like The Atomic something. Crap, I can't remember. But it has a chapter that literally was talking about get to versus have to.
Yes.
And it's just like, it's such a weird way, but it does, they go through a bunch of reasons why it's a good idea, and it's a very interesting idea to like, oh, I get to do this, and it's like it does change your brain.
Yeah, there was like Chick-fil-A for all of their sins. Back before I lost any weight, I got like some kind of Happy Meal or something from Chick-fil-A, and it came with like a little fable book. And this fable, and this fable like blew my mind, changed my life. Still remember it to this day. So while me and Chick-fil-A have our differences, they were formative in my younger years. And
what was the
fable was like this fairy or whatever. Shows up to someone, somehow under some circumstance and gives them a ball of yarn that was connected to their lifespan. And whenever they would yank on the ball of yarn, they could fast forward time. And as time went on, they just skipped all the difficult parts of their lives, got married and everything, but then they got older and like the pain set in and everything like that. And then he finally reached the end of his life and the fairy came along and was like, hey, how was it? How was that? And he just was like, wow, I really wish I could have gone through without this ball of yarn, because I found out that I skipped half my life because half my life is suffering. And that's the case. You know, the suffering makes us appreciate the high points. And like, if you just skipped all the difficult things, you wouldn't enjoy the relaxation. And, you know, sometimes those difficult things can actually be fun too. You know, like sometimes, like we all like a difficult challenge. We all like, you know, difficult problems. We do things that are difficult when we feel that we have some amount of agency over it, you know, so don't skip all the difficult things.
One, believe there's another person that read that same little pamphlet, and it's Adam Sandler, because that is, you just described the movie Click.
Nice. I do remember that movie. Wow.
And two, it exactly what you said. You have to, I don't remember where I heard this or how it was exactly said, so I'm going to bastardize this. But it is basically, without bad, there is no such thing as good. There just is. You need, like, it needs to be that yin and yang of crap to delight for it to, like, for you to be able to experience it truly. If everything is like, you know, if you're on top of a mountain at all times, there is no peak to ascend. You are like, you know, you have to have valleys and, like, you know, high points to experience life.
Yeah,
otherwise it's just
absolutely. And like a lot of things that I talk to with other clients, because a lot of times I consider myself like, you know, a low budget psychologist as well, not in any clinical term, of course, but just, you know, understanding the psychology of it. I see a lot of people that go through periods of depression. I mean, that's the human condition, but like people, especially that are rehabbing injuries or trying to lose weight and everything like that. And I see them give up and start again and give up and start again. And I always try to tell them, it's like, you're feeling low now. You are in a valley, but you know there's going to be another peak soon. And I cannot tell you how transformative it will be for your life if you just learn to hold your own through the valleys, knowing that the next peak is right around the corner. And then the next step to that is just learning to enjoy both sides, you know,
exactly.
or at least, you know, being grateful that you're on this side of the dirt anyway.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. So if you don't mind, if it, I would be curious to know you talked about like the deep breath. Is it literally as simple as just take a deep breath, or do you have like a kind of way of going about it, or way of kind of talking yourself into it? Or if you were to describe it to a client, is there a specific like kind of pattern or something different, or is it literally just take a deep breath?
Yeah, so there's all kinds of different ways, and it can be whatever you want it to be. When I mentioned it earlier, I was kind of thinking of this practice that's not so much physical, but it's just something that, you know, I'll say something like, when I'm with my partner in different places, I will say like, I'm so happy to be here with you right now. Kind of like I'm so happy to be awake and alive, but it's like this thing that says, right here in this moment, I'm actively enjoying this moment as it happens before it turns into a memory. And I also like the deep breath can kind of be its own thing without any words, but you're basically just like, I'm here right now. Like I can't be anywhere else. You know what I mean? Yeah. I am only here right now. But it also can be many things to many people. When my first like personal training session with people, I'll usually have them lie on their back and we just take a couple deep breaths, and you breathe what's called laterally, which is like a physical description of like expanding your entire core. You breathe into your abs, and everything expands in your abdomen basically. And it's just a better way to make use of your diaphragm. And after you do that a couple times, you can kind of understand that breathing is its own exercise, and you can literally get better at it. You know, so like
I'm practicing breathing today.
Exactly. And if you think about it, it's what keeps you alive moment to moment. So if you can increase that capacity, then, you know, how much better off are you? It's also like, you know, when we do the things that we do in this life, like sit at the computer for 4 or 5 hours, you start breathing more shallow. Just from going to like, you know, your autonomous state, basically. Likewise, if you get like cut off and you're in traffic or something and your fight or flight response kicks in, breathing shallow is a part of that. And like shallow breathing is correlated with anxiety, and anxiety causes shallow breathing. So it's like this loop. So you can kind of circumvent it both physically and mentally, because you have your grounding aspect of taking the deep breath, but then also you're kind of reminded like, wait, I have control over my physical systems to a degree. You know what I mean? Instead of like immediately, like if, you know, the disparity between your energy systems can be shown. It's like you can be sitting still, minding your own business, having a great time. And then if someone pulls a knife on you, you can skyrocket in adrenaline in like milliseconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So your body always has that capability. It's right there. So if you learn to actively apply things or kind of just like get better at making certain transitions into states more conducive, you know, you can kind of be like at least a little more in control. And then over time, over years, the practice really deepens. You know, so yeah, kind of a long-winded answer there, but it can be. It. It's like basically, I would say, who's asking the question? Is it someone who's willing to put in 2 seconds of effort, or someone who's willing to build a practice over years? And if the answer is 2 seconds, it's like take a deep breath and notice that you're present right now. And then if it's someone who's like, hey, I want to go deeper and learn this over years, how can I be calmer? How can I lessen anxiety and just appreciate life more? Then it's like, okay, let's get into this daily breathing technique that is, you know, will take as much time as you want to dedicate to it. So,
that's so awesome. All right. Well, other than deep breathing, what life lesson do you wish you learned just a bit sooner?
Life lesson. Definitely appreciating the things that I've had, which again sounds generic, but like I look back and when I was like 20, I had so much going for me, and I still do, don't get me wrong, but like, wow, just endless
My whole life was ahead of
partying
me.
and yeah, right. But like all the partying, all the craziness, all the like, you know, the looks you have when you're 20, whatever it is. And it's like, I didn't appreciate any of it, like any of it at all. And it's like, wow, I just had endless free time. I literally thought the world was going to like fall at my feet. Like I thought I would move out to LA and just, you know, people are gonna be like, oh my God, you're finally here. You know, here's fame, here's money, here's all of it. Like, wow, everyone else is so lame
Rex,
and you're
we were
so
waiting
cool.
for you.
Exactly. Like, man, did I think that life was so much easier than it was. And, you know, and I was depressed and hating everything, despite having nothing but free time and really nothing to complain about. So like, I don't know, I guess just kind of gratitude probably would have been the best thing to have learned earlier. And like, and gratitude for like being around my family and everything. Like I visit Florida, which is where my family's in. And currently I live in LA. I visit Florida like once a year. And you know, mom's getting older and all that. And it's like, I was around my mom and she was annoying me, you know, and it's like, now I like am fighting to get there once a year.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, just gratitude for everything. Cause like, man, was I a lot richer than I thought.
Yeah.
You know, and still am. I try to use that lesson to, you know, appreciate things now.
Yeah.
But definitely could have been more grateful and less self-centered. Like a lot less man, was I selfish. You know, like I guess that's just, you know, the curse
Part of
of
that I
being
think
young.
is being 20, but yeah,
For sure, yeah.
that is definitely one of those lessons that like, if I work around kids, I'm a tutor at a high school, at a charter school or a charter high school. There were words. And so often it's just like, oh, this, then, oh, you know, it's just like, no, like stay in the pocket, like focus on like, I'll do this, then let me. And I think some of it is they're appreciating the now, but a lot of it is they don't see the opportunities in front of them, which is vexum to somebody like in our age bracket. We've just kind of left that part of time where we're like, no, like you don't see it. Trust me, believe me when I tell you this, that like how important this is and what your opportunities are. And they're like, bah, and they just like walk off and like go do something stupid. I'm like, yeah,
for real. Like if I heard someone say, I think it was my brother that told me, you spend your 20s trying to get rich quick and your 30s building wealth from the ground up. And it's like, man, I just thought that every scheme I hatched was going to pay off in like 6 months or less. Yeah. And it's like, if the 20-year-old me knew what a dedicated 2, 4, 5, 6 years would do, and that time was going to pass anyway, you know, I would be in a lot better situation.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, such is life.
Who would you want to play you in a movie of your life? You can choose the time period that you were and then choose the time period of the actor if they are not of scale currently.
So it'd have to be someone up and coming, like someone like not actually well known, because I look like, all right, buff bald guys. We got my boy Vin Diesel, you know, we got Jason Statham, we got, you know, The Rock's not bald somehow. But you know, all these, it's like
you do have the voice affectation of Jason Statham sans the British Cockney accent. That kind of like, it sounds like you smoked, but you didn't probably, like, kind of.
Dude, whenever like someone calls me, if I'm just sitting, like, unless I've actively used my voice within like the last 30 minutes, people call me and they're like, oh, did I wake you up? And I'm like, no, I like, this is how I sound. I don't know why. But yeah, I felt like I should warm my voice up for the podcast or something. Cause like it always, apparently when digitally sounds like I just got out of bed. But yeah, I don't know, all the famous like buff dudes, because it'd have to be buff if they're playing me. They're like, they play such linear roles, and I don't want my movie to be like The Expendables or anything. So like,
Well, what would you want your movie to be like?
The time period. So I got in a lot of trouble when I was younger, and it would have to be at least the beginning would have to be in that period. Because I mean, I tell you, like, I get flashbacks and I'm like, I cannot believe that is a situation that I lived through. And like, I really can't believe it. Some things just come back to me and I'm like, holy shit, was I lost in drugs and everything else. Basically, I was raised hyper-religious and then went as far the opposite way as I could. And also was like raised by rap music. So and I don't want to say like, elements of culture are elements of culture. It's always going to be there. So I'm not here to say like, oh my God, rap music is the devil's or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I am here to say that a lot of people do take it as literally as possible. Yeah. And then you have these people who are rapping about things that they're not doing in the first place because they're sitting on their riches. But I took it as serious as could be. My literal life's aspirations were to be the biggest drug dealer I could be. And I had like morals throughout it. Like I never like wanted to like rob anyone. I was giving people money back, things like that. But I mean, I was actively proud of the craziest, sketchiest, riskiest situations that I could put myself in, and knowing that my life did seem like some kind of action movie, because I never, you're not risk averse at all when you're younger. I didn't realize that so many times I literally was like, an inch away from death, like so many times. And I would always leave those instances very proud. Like, oh, that could go in a song. That could go in a movie, funny story. Actually, now that I said it, I actually made a couple rap songs with my brother when I was like 16. We had like his album that I was featured on.
Were any of them talking about your escapades or escapades that were
endlessly? Yeah. It was always like as much as could be, trying to sound like all the other rappers and everything else. And, I'll fight you. I'll kill you. Don't mess with me,
hyper masculine, like Sigma nonsense.
Yeah, for real. Which is like ironic, because when I was like 16-ish, it was like I was more scared than ever. I was like terrified. But you're making up for it. Like, like the loudest dogs are usually like Chihuahuas and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like they bark the loudest, but they're not much of a threat. So I would be happy to fight everyone to kind of make a name for myself, but I would be terrified inside. So yeah, it's been a long road, and like I definitely eventually would like to write a book, because I don't know, I can't pass from this life without letting people know some of the things that went down, like
what would be one of like your favorite chapters that just like
the highlight and I don't know how far back. Okay, I'll say it in as simple as possible, then I can elaborate if need be. I introduced two people to each other that tried to rob each other. Yeah, like I was so ignorant.
Not as like recourse for the other attempted robbery. It was like both.
No,
like,
they both were like, "Oh yeah, I'm a fucking this 16-year-old kid is trying." Like so someone shows up at my house and is like, long story short, he's like, do you know where I can get a large amount of weed? And in Florida, weed is highly illegal. So and cops have like nothing to do in Florida in general. So like everything is highly illegal there. And so this guy, I did not see a ton of red flags, but he's trying to get as much weed as is possible. And I sold weed at the time. And so I was like, oh yeah, let me see. And I finally get I was very small time. Like the most I was ever buying at a time was like a pound of weed. And, I finally get someone who can get like 10 pounds of weed. And then the guy even ups it to like 20. And I'm like, okay, I can't get a price break, but I can get 20 pounds of weed. And I didn't catch any red flags. I finally introduced them to each other, and they're like trying to feel each other out and everything like that. And I was supposed to get just $500 cash out of it, which for me, for an introduction, was great. I was like, oh, great. You know, I'm 16. That's half a pound of weed.
Yeah.
so we meet up at this guy's house, which is nothing nice for someone who's about to drop, like, I think the price was like 21 grand for 20 pounds of weed. And oh my God. So he's like, yeah, I got half of it now, half in the storage unit. And then the guy who came up to me, the original guy, pulls out a Tech 9, which is a gun, yeah, with like holes in the barrel, like craziness. And here my memory gets crazy because things really went crazy, and like, you know, you can create like situations. Like, so there's some of the memories are created. So I'm trying to like disentangle from it. But basically, the guy that I introduced the other guy to jumps on the guy with the gun, and the gun starts going off. And I can't remember if I tried to grab the gun too, but I do remember that the sparks flew out of the holes of the barrel. And I do remember screaming, "Don't shoot me," which is, you know, not the coolest thing ever. And then the third person in the room, who's the friend of the weed dealer, ended up shooting the guy that originally had the Tech 9. And we all ran out of there. And I was like, whoa, I had no idea that was going to happen. And the one dude was like, you're fucking dead. So I was like, all right, skirt out of with my like my little like beater mobile. I like, you know, rode the fuck out of there, and then flew to Los Angeles the same day. And,
wait,
you know,
what? You flew to LA that day?
Right away. Yeah, right away. I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Oh, he wants me dead. Cool. Bye.
The fuck out of here. Yeah. And then I found out on the newspaper, I read the next day, that the one dude fucking died. And and the other guy got shot in the ass. And I assume he still hates me and eventually would want to kill me. Who knows? But best of luck to him. Hopefully he's not still in the same BS. But I was 16. I had no idea what was going on. And then fast forward a little bit, and I end up testifying in that trial because, you know, I'm like called as like a witness. And I can't remember why I didn't get charged. I guess because like I technically didn't do anything. But I just said what I saw and everything else, which was, of course, against the G code. So, you know, forgive my gangster career for that. But, you know, it turns out when people actually die, not many people keep up to their G code. So yeah, that was crazy. And then even crazier, I went to jail for a year shortly after. And the guy is still in there. And so all of a sudden, here's a scene in my life where everyone's pounding on the windows like, there's the fucking snitch, get him. And I'm just like, oh my God, I made it this far, and here I am about to get shanked by a fucking toothbrush or something in jail. But thankfully got moved out of that pod. And then no shit, cause this is the small town that I was in. I'm in a pod with the guy that actually shot the other guy. And he is much more mature, much more sedated. And he's like, oh yeah, he threw me under the bus, and you know, he snitched on me too, so I don't know why he's really mad that you snitched. But he could care less. He was like, I'm just trying to serve my time, trying to get out of here.
That's hilarious.
Do my thing. So so that like has to be in a movie or some book somewhere.
That is definitely that is the capper to Act 2 for sure.
Yeah,
of, like, the turning
exactly.
around moment. That's insane.
Yeah.
You just described, for the record, you just described a ramped up version of like the end of Act 2 in Boogie Nights, where they go and try to like buy coke from it's the guy that plays Doc Ock in the second OG Spider-Man.
Oh my gosh.
Ed Molina. Can't remember his first name. But like they go in there, they're trying to buy coke, and like you've got like Marky Mark, and I can't remember the rest of the actors in the scene. I think it's like Thomas Jane or something like that is the other actor that just like is their buddy, and like they think they're just gonna buy coke, and then he tries to steal it, and the shootout happens, and they're just like, peace, and they just leave.
Oh
like,
my God.
That's the moment that turns their life around or whatever. It's like, yeah.
I haven't seen it, but yeah, it was definitely like, you know, definitely one of those things that I like tell people about sometimes, and they're like, no fucking way. Cause I actually have a tattoo that is never snitch. And, you know, of course, like I said, I certainly wrote that when it came down time to it, but occasionally people see it and they're like, yo, what the fuck does that say? And I'm just like, I haven't gotten it covered up yet. It's a long story, but if you must ask, And that's probably not even the crazier one. Like the SWAT team actually raided when I went to jail. SWAT team raided my house when I was like 17 years old, which was also up there with the crazier stories. So like it's got, we got all the appeal of a blockbuster here.
All right. Well, we'll talk after this, and we'll make this happen.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of movies, though, what media, whether it be book, graphic novel, TV show, or movie, have you been putting off that is next on your to consume list that you just can't wait to break open? It is your spring break right now. Is there anything that you just watched, or with your days
Resident Evil
remaining?
4 came out today, the remake, and I would love to bust into that. Did you mean specifically like something to watch?
Watch, read, hell, even a game if that's something you were looking to do.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 is definitely on the list. When Diablo 4 comes out, that's there too. Definitely looking forward to some games. I have been meaning to read more in general, but like I have so much reading to do for school that like
Yeah, kind of.
So I've been reading like my resistance training textbook, which is actually pretty interesting because science advances very fast.
Turns out.
Yeah.
It's like Moore's law, or is it Moore's law? Is that the one that's like there's that one law about like the size of technology and that it like damn it. It's a linear expression showing the size of technology shrinking with its advancement multiplying at the same time. Like how and the way we can see that is like the size of computers each decade basically gets smaller. Like when they came out in the 60s, they're the size of a house.
Right.
And the 70s, and like by like the 80s or 90s, we got the like the Mac, the people, the personal Mac, and like the IBMs and stuff like that. And now we have more computing power in our pockets, or in some cases, people on their wrist than our parents had when we were growing up in like the 80s.
Yeah, for real. It's kind of astounding how much and how little that we know about the human body. Because you can't really do live human testing in many areas.
Not anymore.
So yeah, not anymore.
All right, I'm gonna give you a hypothetical. You're going out to a party. You want to look radical. Other than your normal garb, what accessory do you add to your ensemble?
An accessory. Interesting. I'm pretty minimal on the accessories, but
it can be. It doesn't necessarily have to be an accessory. That's just like the way I usually word it, and maybe that needs to change. But it can be like a different article of clothing. But just what's one thing that you add to your biz to really pop?
If there's ever an opportunity for it, blacklight reactive clothing, like around any kind of festival or anything like that. I have a lot of like trippy sacred geometry stuff that like also reflects in the blacklight, and it's also this nice little like surprise. That is like kind of lighting up, so definitely a fan of that. Also, like I don't know, dressing weird is always fun. I'm a festival rave kind of guy. I like to, put on like something ridiculous.
That's
like
interesting that you're a festival rave kind of guy, but your first concert was when you were 20.
Yeah, no, came into it late. I mean, I came into a lot of things late, but yeah, one of my favorite things to do is just get silly with strangers, like have those human moments. And raves
that's the title of your book. Silly
exactly.
Getting silly with strangers.
Yeah, and raves kind of do that. You know what I mean? And when I first started raving and everything, it was like, oh great, an excuse to do drugs like multiple times a week. That's awesome. But like, I very rarely do drugs now, and the drugs I do are very safe. Like basically, the only thing I ever mess with nowadays is like some shrooms occasionally, and most of the time I'm sober at festivals. But it's just this great euphoric dance marathon that also gives people excuses to do silly things, say silly things, put their favorite character on like a totem and like, different random stuff like that. So yeah, big fan. I think raves can save us as a species.
What's a job that at some point in your life you wanted to pursue but are very glad you didn't get?
I wanted to be a pastor when I was younger. I was
it.
pretty certain that I wanted to spread the word of God. Before the SWAT team and everything else, I was pretty certain that I was going to spread the good word far and wide. So yeah.
Why are you glad you didn't get it?
Oh dear God! If I would have still had the blinders on Whew, I don't know. Religion, I've read the Bible 3 times, front to back. There's a lot of wisdom in there, but man, if there ever is a destructive force, religion has really, really hurt us a lot. I do consider myself spiritual, but whew, I tried hard to get a lot of people saved when I was like way younger, and just remember, praying with people, this and that, and it's like nothing can bury the answer to your questions like religion. You know what I mean? Like you could be the answer to a lot of your own issues, and instead you are just, begging a God that may or may not be out there, who knows, to bring you what you want on a silver platter instead of like having agency and doing whatever thing it is that you need to do. You know what I mean? Like no, God is not gonna bring you something to make your life more convenient at the cost of someone else's. Like that's not, if he's out there, that's not what if they're out there, that's not what they're there for.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of interesting that you say that you didn't want, like you wanted that as a job and you're very glad you didn't get it. But in a sort of way with, being somebody's like health coach and physical therapist and all that kind of training, you are sort of saving is maybe a bit of a powerful word, but you are helping people in a very similar fashion when it comes to like getting their life back on track and helping them kind of see it, not the light, but a light.
That's pretty hilarious, and I cannot believe I actually failed to see that. But you are right. Like it's, it's one thing to do it for a job, but it's just really whoever will listen. I really want to share what fitness has done for me, and which sounds exactly like, if you replace the word fitness with Jesus, it's like it's all the same. So wow,
deep breathing is prayer.
Exactly.
It's all that.
Yes.
Do you have a poor man luxury that you still enjoy to this day?
I feel like a lot of them. I get extra pleasure from like what was the Sia song? I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight. I kind of have some extra like. If anything, I need to work on it. I have a little bit of bitterness towards like the extreme upper class. I need to like work on it because they're still just people too, whatever. But I'm extra proud when anything I do doesn't really take much money. Like dancing, going out, all those things are like I don't go out very often. We kind of we camp out with like a bunch of friends, and that's kind of like our night out. But like even when we go out to clubs, it's like I spend money on water bottles, and that's about it. You know what I mean? Like you'll see me dancing my ass off, but I'm not drinking. Not that I even have anything against drinking. I end up just drinking water,
Yeah.
And it's like, if the water's free, then I'm not spending a cent, so I don't know, a lot of things. I feel like I do a lot of things, very budget, and I'm pretty happy with that. For once in my life, I actually, have like a decent nest egg and everything, but yet I still,
why spend it if you don't gotta?
Exactly. And especially if you just being raised poor and everything else, I really do appreciate some things, and I don't know, there are people in my life that they want to go out to the nicest place and they want to do that. And it's like, I literally don't enjoy myself. Like I don't know if it'll ever get there, but spending, 100, 150 on dinner, like that's, maybe if we're going out to celebrate something and it's like, $100 for dinner for 2 people, like, yeah, sure. But like, I don't know if I don't want a $60 plate. Like I don't want that, especially when it probably won't be, it's not going to be like healthy like I like it. So it really just is like a double feels bad because I feel compelled to eat this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I guess specifically probably like camping out with a bunch of friends in the desert. It's like absolutely free, and it's like a absolute banger of a party that also has time for intimate one-on-one connection and conversation, dancing. We're playing our music. It's like, it's a beauty to not need someone else to curate your experience. And I mean, I'm going to like Beyond Wonderland this weekend. Like it's going to be great. There's going to be a bunch of DJs, clearly a curated experience, but also within the next month, I'll go out to the desert with some of my closest friends and we will curate our own experience entirely. You know what I mean? And that will just cost the gas money to get there.
Sweet.
So,
that's so cool. I love that you're doing both. That's so great.
Yeah, it's good times.
While we're talking about music, lastly, before we throw it to a commercial break, if you could have listeners to this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
Dare You by, I believe it's Hardwell and Matthew Coma. I think Hardwell just remixed it. Lyrics are very poetic. It also came at a fun time in my life. Like it often says, like I dare you to do this, dare you to do that. It's like a personal challenge, and dare you to move was like one of the lyrics. And I was actually looking forward to moving to Los Angeles, and I was scared, and I kept putting it off. And then it kind of like clicked one day. I was like, I'm at the age in my life where I am least likely to back down from a dare. I'm repeatedly being dared to move, and yeah, there's a couple beautiful lyrics in it. It starts off saying, "We're a million lonely people all together on this needle in the sky, afraid of heights," and that just stuck with me immediately. It's a good performance song, and then there's also another lyric in it that's like, "You're an outline of a vision that you had when we were children yesterday. You watch it fade." Whoa. I know, yeah. So it really spoke to me on deep levels, and still kind of gives me chills every now and then. And it's kind of like, it just puts things in perspective, you know? So yeah, it had a big impact on me.
Sweet. All right. With that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy this totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy Dare You by Hardwell and Matthew Coma. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify. Passionate People and Preposterous Peace Podcast, Song Rex. Long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Do you ever find yourself sitting around with an emptiness inside your soul, or larger than preferred vacuous space? Would you like to change that? I thought so. Now introducing Stuff. For when you have nothing to do but important things. Stuff. For when you're lacking personality and intrigue. Stuff. When the world has taken a pickaxe-sized chunk out of your heart. Stuff. And if Stuff no longer fulfills these needs, please don't hesitate to look into our life-enhancing product, Addiction. Welcome back, everybody. So, Rex, what is your passion that you've brought with you today?
Definitely just, sharing the good word of what exercise and just a general awareness of your own body and its needs can do for you, So definitely exercise, but, a lot of people exercise a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And just basically the fact that if you invest in your body, it is one of the best investments you can make, and that it will pay off exponentially in this life.
When did you first get introduced to truly working out in this kind of therapeutic self-betterment sort of way? Because it sounds like the way you described your younger self, he might have worked out, but not for those reasons as much as to have guns to show off to the honeys.
Yeah, basically early on, I wanted to change my body because I absolutely hated myself. And lately, I work out because I absolutely love myself. So it transitioned a lot. I was very overweight growing up, and my mom has been over 500 pounds in her life. Is doing a lot better now, but just to kind of give a sense of it definitely runs in our genetics and everything else. We have a high predisposition to being overweight. She has 8 sisters, and all of them, struggle on some level. And basically I started working, high school kind of introduced me to football and everything like that. And I rode the bench all throughout my football career, and I was terrified, completely terrified, finally ending in begging my mom to call the coach and tell him that she would not let me play anymore because I was too scared to quit myself. So that was the level.
Too scared to call. Hold on. Too scared to quit the football team. Fine slinging drugs. And
well, think of the drugs as a little bit after. So we were building up to it. But yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, owns multiple guns, terrified of getting tackled. Yes. But it's Florida. I was just blending in.
Yeah. What were you? So when did you really take it? You said you were overweight, and then you were on the football team. Did you lose a lot of weight? Were you playing a bigger position?
Football was my introduction to just physical activity, because I had never really been. It's besides trying to because I'll never forget when I was really young, when I was probably 8 or 9. My mom sat me down, and she was like, I really don't want you to be fat. And as a kid, I was like, oh, okay, I'll get right on that. You know what I mean? I was like, I have no idea what to do. So other than occasionally like trying to like ride my mom's exercise bike occasionally and like eat less ice cream in general, my first introduction to like physical activity was from the football team. And it was terrible. It was suffering without understanding any of the benefits of it. It was just terrible, absolutely terrible in every way. So shockingly, that didn't make me like never pick up fitness again. But basically, when it was probably like junior or senior year in high school, when you care about your looks like the most.
Yeah.
I started like running, and just eating as little as possible, which is not the way to do it, folks. It's not the way to do it. But you know, the laws of physics won't change, and so I did eventually start losing a lot of weight. And then after losing like 40 or 50 pounds, when I was probably like 16 or 17. I was like, holy shit, this is actually making a change. And I literally didn't even realize until at least like 40 or 50 pounds in. And then you start to get like all the compliments and everything else. And mixed words anyway. You start to get the recognition. It's not always compliments, but people are saying things. And I'm like, wow, okay, things are changing. And then I got to my skinniest, which was around 190. And I do say skinny as like, it's not like the very best thing. I was like very, very skinny, and I didn't really know what else to do. So I just kept on eating next to nothing. And the less I ate, the better in my mind. And I just kept on running. And running when you're that heavy is like, there's certainly a threshold where your joints aren't very happy about it. And then on top of that, like not eating is just generally not good. So I didn't really know where to go from there. And then that was when I got arrested and everything like that. And then after a year-long sentence and everything like that, I went to a rehab, and in the rehab, we had a weight pit. And I was like, you know what? I could actually make some good use of my time here. And while in jail the whole time, I was like rewriting a personal training textbook in my own words, and reading the Bible front to back and doing anything I could to make use of that time. And then when I got to rehab, I actually started learning some life skills. It was actually decent. It was all kinds of weirdness too, and odd situations, but also there was some good coping skills taught and things like that. And there was a general appreciation for fitness. No one actually really was like, actually like showed me the way or anything, but I was like, hey, I could wake up at 5 a.m., have some time to myself, and lift these weights. And after 6 months in there, I noticed some substantial muscle, and life had always made me feel powerless, like always. Even after losing all the weight, I just always felt like tossed by the wave that was life. And gaining that weight and gaining that muscle and looking like an immovable force, because I was already like, 6'6", whatnot, I started to be like, wow, like this is pretty crazy. And, there was still a lot of young emotions and pent up aggression and everything like that. But I started to like, be like, wow, I'm really, really on to something here. And again, like I said, I was like beating my body. I was like beating it into submission. And it was because I had a lot of self-hatred and everything like that. But then slowly over time, I just started to like not give myself such a hard time, and just kind of learned like, after getting out of rehab and all the jail and all the things like that, and stumbling less and making basically a better person of myself, and realizing that I regretted hurting anyone that I had hurt, and realizing that life does in fact go on past 23, which was like a shock to me. I literally thought it was, I was like the live fast, die young motto, which was, sounds great when you're fucking young.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I was like, wow, okay, I'm actually in this for the long term. And then I became a personal trainer, started helping other people. And it was really the act of like helping other people lose weight and everything that had me realize that the self-punishment didn't line up with my life views and everything. Because it's like, most people can look at themselves in the mirror and say that they hate themselves and everything like that. But it's like, there's an old tactic that if you try to, okay, take all those bad words you say to yourself and try saying them to your mom or something, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, wow, that actually really, or like, what if your mom was saying those things you say to yourself to herself? How would you feel about that, or your loved one, whatever it is? And it's like, it kind of changed your perspective. So I would have these people come to me that hated themselves. And then, there's an old thing about teaching. You probably know it as a teacher yourself, that, you teach what you need to hear. And so like the act of teaching was like very, very helpful for me. It's like, I generally wanted people to love themselves. So how could I teach from a state of, such like
it's hard to teach something you don't know. Yeah,
exactly. So, and then also the internet, quick side note, a lot of people that grew up with the internet, I don't blame them for a lot of their wrongs, because like there is a lot of help out there on the internet if you look for it. A lot of the common tropes and psychological ideas and evaluations and things are just out there on different Reddit threads, and you can just Google how you're feeling and get a synopsis of it. So the internet certainly helped me a lot, like understand my own feelings and just how to be a better person. No one person in general, but just like, you can kind of get connected to spirituality and learn certain things about yourself and how to be happier and things like that through the, magical invention that is the internet. So over time, it kind of changed to me doing this because I love myself. And also, like, I fell off the wagon multiple times. Like, there's a saying in AA and NA and several other things that say relapse is part of the program. And I do believe that's true, because in order for you to value what you've done, you sometimes have to lose it. So first off, when your body makes a drastic change, it's basically fighting you tooth and nail to rebound backwards. The faster you lose weight, the harder it is on like a hormonal level and everything not to bounce right back. And it's very possible, don't get me wrong, but like The Biggest Loser showed a lot of evidence of that when, like, a staggering amount of people on that TV show were like back to their old weight very quickly.
Yeah, very few people keep off.
Yeah. So like after gaining the weight, losing the weight, gaining the weight, losing the weight, and going through all this cyclical depression and everything, I was like, how can I find something that's more sustainable? And it overlapped with a time in my life where I was more into more like Buddhist thought and more self-love type things and everything like that. And I finally found just a very sustainable way that is simultaneously not judging yourself for messing up and not feeling guilty and not giving into the shame and everything, but also constantly reminding yourself that you want more and that you're capable of more.
So to backtrack a bit, when it came to getting into being a physical therapist and, helping people work out and better themselves physically, what was the first step of doing that? How did you figure out that you wanted to do that? And then how did you take the first step in that direction?
Right. So I'm currently a personal trainer. I actually dropped the trajectory of physical therapy. I'm just getting my master's in exercise science and probably taking it from there, probably looking at a doctorate program. But I did give up physical therapy, but I do help people with injuries and everything like that, just to clarify.
Okay.
But no, you're fine. But like physical therapists, like, they worked hard. They're doctors. I'm not a doctor yet.
Okay.
So just, losing the weight probably around being like 20 years old or something. I got certified as a personal trainer, which is alarmingly easy. Unfortunately so. But it helped me get into it. And, our industry is pockmarked by some people that just, they grew up and they were always fit. And so they think they can teach other to be fit and it should be easy and blah, blah, blah. And then there's other people that are just looking for a side hustle, whatever else. And then there's people like me that are lifers and we really do this because we love it. But I got into it around 20. My first job was at a gym called UFit as a personal trainer there. And they had me shadow a personal trainer for one day. And then they threw me right in there with Lord. Like clients with like 2 torn rotator cuffs and like, crazy scenes. Cause personal training is predicated on sales when you go to a corporate gym.
Of course it is.
Yeah. And I do zero sales. I don't do any contracts. I don't do anything like that. In fact, that's probably like, my downfall, if anything. And the reason I don't have more money is I do zero marketing, zero sales. It's, you want to train with me? Great.
It might be the reason you have less money in one direction, but like I have to imagine that has to be a big reason. Like one of the ways that I know if a relationship or if a circumstance is going to work out is when the amount of pressure for me to do something. When somebody says you're in or you're out, or you have to do this, it's like but when somebody's like, hey, whatever works for you, however we can make this function for you, I am way more likely to come back. So it might. That's fair. That's fair. And it actually works on both ways too, because if someone doesn't want to train with me, then all of a sudden I'm working a job, and I work for myself because I didn't want to show up to a place that doesn't want to see me. You know what I mean? So it does work both ways. But yeah, becoming a trainer when I was around 20 and then starting training, and despite technically not being qualified, but it's like, what I tell people when they first get into personal training. Apparently a lot of other people weren't either. So.
Exactly. And that's why when people come up to me and they're like, oh, I want to be a personal trainer, blah, blah, blah. I always say, like, if you actually care, if you really care, then you are already better equipped than most of the personal trainers out there. So I give them the go ahead and say, go for it. Go get certified online in a weekend. But please never lose the spark to continue learning. You know, but basically, as soon as I was training people and in front of people, it absolutely clicked. And I'm very, very grateful to be able to say that I'm one of those people that when I did this as a job, I was like, holy shit, this is it. Like all the other work I've done in my life has been pretty much meaningless compared to actually showing people. Cause like I said, I never thought I would take it this far. I never had any dreams of going anywhere beyond trying to lose a couple pounds. And in fact, my actual goal was to be literally skinny enough to be average so I could blend in. That was the literal goal. I would have even given up some of my height if I had the option. I just wanted to be
I think you would have had to give it up some of that. You kind of stand head and shoulders above a lot of us.
Exactly. And thankfully I didn't have the option because now I'm very happy to stand out. But back in the day, I just wanted to be average and I would have given everything for it. And then here I am, you know, pushing the levels of fitness that I never thought was possible. And like I said, it just started with the decision to put one foot in front of the other. And so many people have had bad experiences with exercise and everything that in the first session with me, when I show them that it's not about cracking a whip, it's actually about loving yourself. It's actually about healing on a deep, deep level and becoming aware of your body and why you do the things you do. And why do you want to lose weight in the first place? I have to have the unfortunate conversation with a lot of people that is like, what are you going to do differently if you have a bikini body? Is your life really going to change? Because I got news for you. Life was pretty much the same for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's great to get some compliments. Don't get me wrong. And I never lose that, you know, that mindset. Like, I'm very, very grateful for it. But in the end, your problems are still your problems. So like, you know, having that conversation with yourself of why do I want this? Why do I feel like I'm not enough? And trying to heal mentally, physically, and spiritually, like all together. Like, I think everyone needs a coach, man. And, I used to have this old thing hanging on my office that, like, if you remember the old meme, like, what mom thinks I do, what society thinks I do, what I really do. Yeah. And it would be like what society thinks I do. And it'd be like an athletic trainer, like stretching someone in this really awkward position. And it'd be like what I think I do. And I'm like, you know, the Rocky corner man. And it's like what I really do, which is like the therapist and someone's on my couch and I'm just listening to their problems, you know? So yeah, I really just help people try to be better in general. From within though, you know, I'm not some wealth management life coach or anything. Like, there's a lot I don't know in this life, but I do know how to be happy with whatever the hell you have and to make tomorrow better than today, you know?
So why did you, if you didn't need, like, if you can get certified to become a personal trainer in a weekend, why are you going back to school and doing all this work?
To separate myself and to be more grounded in evidence. I have done a lot of research on my own because I always have wanted to learn. And there is a lot that you learn working in the field. But as I was saying earlier, it's kind of surprising how quickly our field evolves. So being a personal trainer, you recertify every 2 years. And I would recertify and I would, you know, the whole reason behind muscle soreness would be different. And it's like, I was like, what? But then on top of that too, I spent a year, like, you know, people look at me and they're like, oh my God, must have such discipline. But it's like, discipline isn't always like, what's the word? Like it's not always crossing between different areas of your life. So I'm super disciplined physically, but I spent probably age like, I don't know, 23 to 28, just kind of coasting. Like I moved to LA and, you know, did some things and I was becoming a better person. I was learning more. I was doing my thing, but I didn't really do much else. And I always thought, I was like, well, why go to school if I can make, you know, be a better success working for myself, this and that. And then it's like, I find out that I perform best with hoops placed in front of me and I will jump through them to stellar success. But when I don't have goals and deadlines, I kind of just do my own thing. And I would have amazing physical goals, you know, oh, I'm stronger, I'm better, you know, and once you get into like the elite level of athletics, it's like, I became 1% stronger in the last year. It's like not quite as exciting, you know what I mean? So like, you know, going back to school just kind of seemed like the natural next step to, if I was going to write a book or if I was going to write exercise programs and everything, like number one, I want to make sure that I am providing the best value, especially if I'm going to create something that will have a life of its own and stay static rather than the dynamic elements of training people. Because I come alive when I'm in front of people with this one-on-one interaction, and I give them whatever they need in that moment. But to write articles, to write books, to do things like that, it is a static process, unless you're updating it. And so I wanted to be grounded in evidence. And also we talked a little bit about imposter syndrome, and it's like, why not? Why not have a master's degree? Why not have a doctorate? Like, if I've worked so hard, that was one thing that fitness taught me, is if I can do that, if I can hold my breath as long as I can, if I can go through intense personal suffering for fun, why not? You know what I mean? So here I am a couple years later.
Intense personal suffering for fun.
Yeah, I have a good yoga teacher that
Rex Ruswick story.
Yeah, I have a good yoga teacher who like commonly makes me cry because he says the things to the class that I only say to other people. I don't normally hear them. So it's very self-affirming. And he'll say something like, yes, that glorious short-term suffering that we trade for long-term benefit. and that really is what it is in the end. What is school? What is like, whatever thing you do, even raising kids, like anything that you're doing, what is it other than short-term sacrifice for long-term benefit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So kind of like seeing it from a different angle, like, yes, I'm making that investment. Putting away a bunch of cash doesn't always feel good, but when it yields when it yields dividends, or when you actually have money to cover an emergency or whatever else, it's like, oh, thank God I did that.
Yeah. So you talked about you had lost, and in the intro said lost 130 pounds. What was your biggest loss, and what do you think your healthiest loss was?
So I lost that 130 pounds from one straight shot, just kind of eating as little as I could and running as much as I could. And then there were a couple times where I probably got like really depressed or something else and kind of would gain like 30 or 40 pounds. And then it would be like a self-fulfilling prophecy because I would feel so guilty and so shameful to have put on the weight that it would kind of like rebound again. So, I'd come against it a lot. And then for the last couple of years, it's been very automatic and I've never felt more on top of things. And I've also been in a healthy enough mind state to be looking forward, like, hey, what could possibly knock me off the horse? And how do I be vigilant and guard against that? But the healthiest thing I did, despite being like intangible, would probably be that change from the reason why, is to just doing it for myself and just and like the self-love. Like there's a lot of cliche things. Like I do look at myself in the mirror routinely and say like, hey, you're doing great. You're beautiful. Good job. Like, wow, you're crushing it. You know what I mean? Like I say those things to myself in the mirror because it's important, So yeah,
even though you lost that 130, it kind of sounds like that isn't something you'd recommend to anyone. It sounds like it was
losing the weight is good, but it can be much more measured. My end result could have been a lot healthier. You can simultaneously gain lean mass from the physical side of things. You can simultaneously gain lean mass at the same time that you're losing excess fat. And there's a bunch of different reasons for that. Not only is lean mass very healthy and resistance training builds bone density, energy capacity, everything like that, but from a sheer weight loss perspective, your lean mass is what's called metabolically expensive, which means it costs a lot to keep alive. Like your brain burns a lot of calories and then your muscle burns a lot of calories as well. And between those two, that's burning the bulk of your calories. So at the end of me losing 130 pounds, eating as little as I could and running as much as I could, my body was burning much less calories per day per pound. Because part of the weight that I lost was also lean mass, because your body's kind of indiscriminate. It's in survival mode. So that's one of the benefits of resistance training, and this number is wildly variable. So who really knows, but something like 35 to 75 calories per day per pound of lean mass. So if I had been able to train myself and in that year I had put on 4 or 5 pounds of lean body mass instead of losing who knows how many, I would be burning more calories at the end, and I would also be in a much clearer mental state and everything else. The analogy of comparing your body to a computer is old and tired, but some ways it works. Your body has a certain amount of calories that it burns per day, And when you starve it, it will basically minimize processes in order to lower the amount of calories that it burns per day in order to survive. So a reason why a lot of people fail in crash diets and everything like that, or rebound right away, is that their body has minimized so many processes, which number one has them feeling like shit and can lead to depression and injury and all kinds of other things. And when you're so depressed, you give up. It's like, what the fuck's the point? But the precursors to be happy and all those things, they all come from physical components of oxygen, sunlight, food, and water. So anyway, by the end of a crash diet, your body has minimized so many processes that it's burning hardly any calories. And the only way you can continue to lose weight is to further reduce those calories until you finally give up, get sick, etc. So the secret to long-term sustained weight loss is often eating more and doing more than most people think.
Other than that, what would you say is the biggest misconception about physical training by the wider world?
Is that it is endless suffering. I use the word suffering because the word is kind of funny. It's like the epitome of it, but it literally can be a meditative thing. Yeah, like, okay, alcohol is a great example. Do you drink?
Very rarely.
Very rare. Okay, but did you drink a lot in high school?
My parents are listening, so no.
Oh, of course not. Okay. Well, anyone that did drink a lot, if you remember the first time you tasted liquor, it was utterly disgusting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yet you kept on drinking it for some god awful reason. And yet your body turned around like, oh, wow, this is the nice drink. This is, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's not like the only example, but basically certain things you do, when you do them more and more, you can learn to really, really like them. And generally we don't like the things that we're good at. And so once you get better at something, you like it a lot more. And we don't like the things that expose our weaknesses and make us feel powerless. So as you build this skill and develop it, not only does it become a source of pride, but it can be your meditative time that like, it just goes without saying that it is the first thing I do every day. Like every now and then I'll train a client before, but like usually mid-morning or something before anything important, I have spent my time on me. And it's a great thing. It's like my fortress, so it is not just suffering. And it also, like, exercise can be different things to different people. You don't even have to do resistance training. You can play sports, you can swim, you can play games with people, you can go on hikes, you can walk your dog. There's tons of ways to get more activity. So I think in general, just the fact that that both nutrition and exercise are just this constant form of self-punishment. Like, people look at me and they think that I'm deprived. I love the food that I eat and I love the exercise that I do. And I never, ever dreamed of that when I was a kid eating 10 candy bars at a time. I thought that I literally remember they're at like Save on Drugs was there like 3 for 99 cents and I would buy 9 of them at a time and not understand why I felt sick. But like,
they say $100,000, I should feel like a millionaire.
Exactly. All these bright colors should be lifting me up.
What is your favorite thing to eat while we're talking about it?
I really love me some sweet potatoes. I'm currently on like an apple kick. I love me some grapes. For the people out there, I have to like, for everyone that's just like, oh God, I have to say, like, I love like a good acai bowl. With like all kinds of toppings and everything like that. I'm a big fan of dark chocolate. Salmon is wonderful.
Is there a dish or a place that you'll go out and occasionally eat that would have like a name to it that people would recognize?
Let's see. Uba tuba acai is like wonderful, if I'm even pronouncing that right. It's like apparently the actual way that they do it in Brazil, which is like half of it is toppings. And then it basically is like a wonderfully topped ice cream that just basically I always feel a little bit better too if what I'm eating contains something good for me. So while there's like a ton of calories and whatnot, there's all kinds of relatively rare nutrients that you get from like goji berries and, different things that, levels of vitamins and minerals that your body is like, thank you. We weren't getting that from the everyday chicken and potatoes.
Yeah.
So
on the flip side, what's your favorite non-obvious aspect to physical training?
My favorite non-obvious aspects to training, or like training myself, like my own workouts?
The whole entire sphere of physical training, whether it be you training yourself, you training other people, going into the research, any aspect of it. But what is the thing that's like people don't know about? And you're like, oh, it's so fucking good. This is just the tops.
Right. Let's see. How much control you have over yourself, like your own thoughts. You set the rules for your own life. Like you can set your own rules for thinking, like a lot of times I gamify things and you find secrets to your motivation and find ways to motivate yourself and ways to make yourself do things. And it's funny because you can even lie to yourself and know that you're lying, but you can still hang on for the lie. You know what I mean? Like I'll even
placebo yourself almost.
Exactly. Yeah. Some days I'll go to the gym. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna hit 30 minutes and we're gone. And I know that's not the case. You know what I mean? So just the fact that, like I said, that you could build a long-standing, disciplined regiment, you know what I mean? Like so many people look at so many things. Like I looked at athletics and everything else and I was like, I can't do that. There's no way. But like also too, like just feeling like an absolute champion. Like guys especially, they have so much pent up aggression and so much like just other issues, like anger issues, daddy issues, whatever. And it's like when you get to put on your favorite like hard ass song and do something that the you from 3 months ago did not know was possible, and routinely hit that next level, it's like, oof, there are a few highs like that. And like I said, just you end up feeling so powerful and you end up thinking like, hey, I don't like this about my life. It'll probably take a couple months to change that. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that like, I know I keep on giving like 10 answers to the questions, but also with food and everything, like so many people are like, oh, but this tastes so good, I could never give it up. And it's like, I do understand that. And you also don't have to give it up tomorrow. But most people are unaware of how sluggish they are on a daily basis. Yeah. And I didn't even understand it either. Because when I first started getting fit, it was, protein shakes and pre-workout and, all these like garbage supplements that I thought I was confusing for health. And it's like, you don't understand how sluggish the high fructose corn syrup makes you feel and all these additives. And that like remembering something that I heard once last week is like a normal part of life now. And I'm not saying that everyone's going to be some kind of supercomputer, and I'm certainly far from perfect, but just your body is just so dependable, like I don't really want to dip into this like too much because who knows how like divisive it is. But over the pandemic and everything, like getting sick and whatnot, like, of course I believe in a vaccine, everything's great, but like most people are unaware of how incredibly beneficial exercise is for your body against all cause mortality from anything, from a physical car accident all the way down to a stroke or whatever else. So like when COVID came around, I took the vaccine, did everything I could, but at the same time I was like 99-1, this thing gets me. Yep. I'm sick for a week and that's that. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, like, physical activity can't inoculate you from some kind of virus or anything like that. But Kaiser Permanente released a study linking self-reported physical activity, which is notoriously unreliable, but linking self-reported physical activity on their questionnaires as the single biggest positive determinant of a COVID outcome, regardless of other factors. And it's just, you're stressing your heart, you're giving your body a bunch of like perceived inflammation, and it's learning to regulate itself over and over and over and over to the point where, you get sick or whatever and your body's just like, oh, I got this. We've been here before. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, that was like a tangent and I have no conspiracy theories. I have no anything like that. That's very
fascinating.
Yeah. Like a literal claim that I can make is that if you have like, there's something called the cardiac protective benefit, and you can Google this and you can look this up right now. But if you have a heart attack, and within the last week, you have performed cardiovascular exercise, within the last week, you have better chances of an outcome just because of the state of your heart from having done cardiovascular exercise. So it like, it is.
Cardio saves lives.
It literally does. And also to clarify, cardiovascular activity is anything that gets your heart rate up. So if you're flapping your arms, you're dancing, you're doing whatever, if it gets your heart rate up,
you are
that's
acting like a chicken
activity.
at your child's birthday party.
Exactly. dancing is one of the best forms. You know, like there's another thing of exercise. Like people are like, oh yeah, how could you enjoy that? Like dancing? I love dancing. You know? So big fan.
Oh my gosh. Just the way you said that. I love dancing.
Exactly. Yeah. Big fan.
All right. To move on from the passionately pleasant to the obnoxiously annoying, Rex, my guy, what is your preposterous peeve?
Okay. So again, pretty cliche, but people dropping weights in the gym, screaming and otherwise making it an inhospitable place, you know, cause it's my idea of like a sanctuary, but you go in and you, within like 10 minutes in a corporate gym, no, within 3 minutes in a corporate gym, you are reminded why most people have the opinion of exercise that they normally do. You know, like you got this dude in the corner slamming shit and screaming for literally no reason. It like, oh, do this. If you ever go into a gym, anyone that goes into a gym, go in there and just close your eyes and without any context, try to imagine where you're at. Like, where am I right now? What are these sounds? Like, you know, so, yeah, I can't stand the alpha male bullshit. It's also dropping your weights is almost never recommended. You're also missing out. Like the eccentric portion of the lift, which is basically lowering the lift, is very important for building strength. So anyone who's dropping their weights is signifying that they're 1, weak, and 2, missing out on tons of other benefits. So yeah, I don't know. The gym needs to be friendly for new people.
Isn't that like part, as somebody who spent so much time in a gym, isn't that like kind of a part of the way of like like enjoying that moment to their fullest? Like and
that's why it's different. Like and if you do it and you're really getting something from it, go for that shit, my guy. Like go for it. But there's like a difference, like because there's also an element of like monkey see, monkey do, and people are like, okay, I have to do this. I have to scream. I have to, like, if you're really going for that last rep, scream it out. Like, let's do it. But what you'll see is people are like, okay, every rep that they're doing this, they are screaming. Like, and again, if you need to vent, great. Like you're getting it, great. But it's overrepresented for, you know, like this dude's screaming on every rep and then he throws the weights. You know what I mean? Like, okay.
Temper it to 1.
Yeah. Like that.
I'll
That's
give you
great.
1.
Yeah, everyone gets 1, and you can even have 1 per set. But like, if it's every set all the time, and I'm hearing you over my noise canceling headphones, you know, and it's probably also just the city. Because if I think back, like in Florida, it didn't really bother me that much. But like, I think like, you know, the city has that element. Not only did you fight through traffic to get there, but someone bumped into you on your way into the gym, and you know, like, you know, you had to wait for the urinal, and you know, God knows what else. So yeah, it you asked for a preposterous peeve. So.
Oh no, it is, and I love it, but it makes sense, and it fits both ends of the spectrum. I love it. It's so great. When did you first notice this being like a kind of glaring issue for you?
That's a scary thing, man, because I always ask myself, like, am I the old man shaking his fist at the clouds? Because like, wow, dude, 20 is different than 30. Because when I was 20, it was me screaming and dropping the weights, like, you better believe it, and doing all this like idiotic ninja warrior bullshit, you know, and like, who am I to try to slam the door behind me and be like, oh, these 20 somethings shouldn't be doing what I did, you know? So there's like certainly an element of grace that is like, but yeah, I think it's only in the last couple of years. And that's why I wonder if it's the city, you know, cause I'm living in like this, for the rent of what I could get in Florida with like a pool and a front yard and a backyard and a garage, and everything else. I am getting a 1-bedroom apartment next to a very busy street, you know, and the door is slamming and people running up the stairs and waking me up in the middle of the night and blah, blah, blah. So I think it just added up overall that like now even in my sanctuary with my noise canceling headphones, I got to hear the moaning and the screaming, you know, of people that like, and again, I don't want to be the stereotypical fitness guy that's like, oh, you're not even working hard, blah, blah, blah. But like people that are like, I don't know if you're going to be there next week or whatever else. But like, I'm in here day in, day out, pushing myself to the very limit. And I am setting my weight down like a mouse. And I am breathing very quietly. So it's like, you know, again, if you're getting a release from it, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah.
But if everyone's looking at you, that might, you know, you might be disturbing some people.
Is there a time where this was particularly bullshitty and obnoxious?
Yeah. I always really try to be kind. I really do try to be kind because I don't ever, I was bullied a lot when I was younger, and I don't ever want to come away from like some kind of altercation having been that bully. But one time, this dude just sits up next to me and is just like throwing the weights, doing the screaming, all that stuff. So I like go to unload this squat bar and I throw this plate like within probably like 4 or 5 inches from him, and he jumps, gets the shit scared out of him. Because I was trying to make a point. It's like, that's what I'm feeling every time you're throwing this. But the worst part of it all was that after getting scared, he gave this look like, yes, that's normal behavior, and carried on. Yeah, and I was like, oh, great. So now I'm perpetuating the cycle, and now I'm the monkey, and I'm slamming the weights. Great job. So yeah, I was immediately.
That's such great karma.
Yeah, and especially from someone who's like, hey, my favorite thing is a deep breath. Like, let's be centered. For me to also be like, occasionally.
That's like your impression of yourself.
Yeah. Well, I know sometimes I sound ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. I don't take myself too seriously. I'm certainly human. I'm not like a monk. You know what I mean? Like, I aspire to be better, but like, I'm certainly flawed.
I'm gonna dry my eyes while we go to our second ad break, but please don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Rex is gonna enter the lightning round.
All right.
Have you ran out of new stuff to do, rendering your life wholly unsatisfying? Do you have too much time on hand and have no idea what to do with it? Or are you just plain over this existence and wish for a plane with more intrigue? Might I introduce you to Addiction? Addiction deals with all these problems and more. Had to meet your significant other's parents and would rather not? Addiction. Had to go to work for the third day in a row? Addiction. Rent? Why not? Addiction. Addiction cannot be held responsible for your choice of choosing to imbibe in addiction. Any and all life-destroying fallout as a result of addiction cannot be legally pinned on addiction. But you're more than welcome to try. And we're back. Rex, are you ready to enter lightning round?
The lightning round?
I am. Bring it on.
Okie dokie. Well, put however much I owe in alimony on red. Rex, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No. Definitely not.
Make the food or do the dishes?
I'd probably do the dishes, ironically.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
Are you out of touch, or is it the
not
children
currently?
who are
Not
wrong?
currently. Just for not currently. So no. But anyway.
Are you out of touch, or is it the children who are wrong?
It's the damn kids. We're both out of touch.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Oh, Fran Drescher. The nanny? Absolutely.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
It's both. It's the coolest, lamest thing ever.
Would you rather read the cue cards while wearing the crown or live in a hovel and speak your mind?
I'm living in that hovel, speaking my mind to everyone who will listen.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Let's keep it good. Another amazing thing. Epic all around.
Nick Cage, best or worst ever?
Oh, he's doing his best, but maybe the worst. But he's great. He's great. He's a national treasure. Bubble.
Bears, Beats, or Battlestar Galactica?
Bears. Bears are awesome. Love bears. Big fan.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
I create my own thoughts and my own reality.
Well, speaking of, are truth and reality the same thing?
Oof. No. Simple.
Do you believe in love at first sight?
No. Most of the things I love, it takes a while.
Album, shuffle, or playlist?
Playlist all day, every day. That's the only thing I listen to, and in fact, it's a problem because I don't find new music very often.
Are we simultaneously living in other dimensions at this very moment?
Yeah, why not?
Beatles or Elvis?
I appreciate them. I guess I'm obligated to say the Beatles.
Would you rather the checkout line never had a line, or the fast food place always gave you a large fry when you asked for a medium?
The only one that applies to me is certainly the grocery store. Certainly. Let me buy my apples and potatoes.
Would you rather have the superpowers to travel into the vastness of space or the darkness of the ocean depths?
Oh, wow. I think the ocean, just because it's like right here. Love the ocean, love space. I think the ocean.
Would you rather have the top or bottom half of a mermaid body?
uh, the bottom. I need the bottom. Give me the fishtail.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art or media?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are many, many perfect pieces. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
Yeah. Yeah. A couple throughout time. Very confusing.
What is more important, freedom or structure?
Freedom. Freedom, for sure.
For your last meal, would you rather have a Whopper with cheese, onion rings, and a Sprite, or a 3-piece chicken strip with mashed potatoes, gravy, a biscuit, and a Dr. Pepper?
Oh my God, you can do this to me? Oh
It's your
my
last
God.
meal. You
It
don't
looks
have to
like
take
my
fit anymore.
No, I would. This is more than that. I'd be like, no, take me to the gallows. I can't do that. I'm not going out on that note, going so strong and then just like, no way. Fucking the Colonel is not winning. No, sir.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
I think so. 37 sweet potatoes. Yeah, I could get
Hell
down.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's a lot of like
That's a
whole
lot.
sweet potatoes.
I would
That
hope
be a
that they're
lot.
small. Yes, but $5,000, like, oof, I'm here for it.
For a month's rent, I'm down.
Yeah, yeah. For 1 month's rent, give it to me.
Well, as you've vanquished the lightning round, you may now ask me and my future guests one lightning round question of your own.
All right. So, will we make it to an interstellar civilization, or will we kill ourselves first?
Oh, we're gonna kill ourselves first.
I know. Depending on the day, some days I'm more optimistic, but like, I don't know.
If you talk to me like, I'm trying to remember how many years ago. It's probably like 3 or 4 years ago, back when I still thought Elon Musk wasn't, or knew Elon Musk wasn't a hunk of shit. I would have said like yes, because like I was kind of buying into his like, oh, we're gonna go to Mars, we're gonna do all this. I was like, this guy is going to like save us, and then it's like, oh no, he's a freaking idiot. Like,
yeah, and generally, like the genius facade was up more, right? Like all those people in his position, they're like, oh, they're geniuses. Oh God, they're such a gift to the world. It's like, no, they're just greedy assholes.
Yeah, no, it turns out totally not. What a bummer.
Yeah, for real.
Well, as we come to a close here, my friend, is there anything you want to plug, shout-outs you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
Yeah, let's see. My Instagram is just my name, Rex Ruswick. Nothing too special on there except, just live my life. My website is rexercise.me. Kind of old. I don't really keep it up to date, but anyone that's interested in training in the Los Angeles area, feel free to email rex@rexercise.me or visit rexercise.me, which will have my contact info and whatnot.
Fantastic. All right, thanks, buddy.
All right. Yeah,
well,
it was fun.
Thank you, Rex, for being my guest today, and a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you listening at home or wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on Soundcloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sibel Yellow. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please stick around because great things have only just begun.